Kiran Kaur Gill, welcome again to ITV Gold. I hope you're doing well today.
Thank you. I am. Thank you
Yes.
for having me.
Of course, we have to have you because we have been missing SALDEF and all the incredible work it does. And we wanted to bring forth some important information that the association has to share. So let's dig right into it, Kiran. For viewers that may not know about SALDEF and its programs, especially during COVID-19, could you provide us an insight into it, a little bit about what SALDEF is and what it's doing?
Sure. So SALDEF stands for the Sikh American Legal Defense and Education Fund. We're the oldest national Sikh advocacy organization. We're based here in Washington, D.C. Our focus is on empowering Sikh Americans by building dialogue, deepening understanding, encouraging civic and political participation, and also upholding social justice and civil rights for all Americans, including the Sikh community and for all the American community. We have been extremely active during the pandemic with our programming, as many institutions and organizations have done. We have converted a lot of our programming to virtual programs. We actually, over the past summer, every year we run a program called the Sikh Lead Program, which is a program that places Sikh students in legislative internships, where they get a firsthand experience of working with the federal government or state government. We worked really hard this year to actually secure virtual internships.
Wow.
So we had 18 students across the country working in these internships. They got an incredible experience, not only in working in government, but also in advocacy work.
Wow.
They worked on a number of projects, which included a National Sikh Survey, which got over 2,000 respondents from the Sikh community, and gave us real insight to issues of importance for the community. So we had some really exciting and incredible stuff. And of course, as many organizations are also providing the community with up-to-date information on COVID, the stimulus packages, and a lot of the other information that is essential for us as we move forward.
Definitely. Let's talk about Sikh Americans a little bit, Kiran, because obviously SALDEF focuses a lot on getting the Sikh American voice out, heard, and represented in all levels of the society. Talk to us about how COVID-19 has impacted Sikh Americans particularly, and have you seen them be impacted by the economic crisis or the healthcare crisis, and how have you been able to help them?
So it's interesting. I think, one of the tenets of Sikhism is seva, service to humanity, right? And a lot of times we think of it in the context of Sikhism, like a starting point is the Gurdwara, like we serve langar, many Gurdwara go out into the community and serve langars. So it's been a central points for the community. Not being able to go in person has been difficult, but the community has been extremely active nationwide, specifically on serving langar to the communities in need. There's been, activity from Florida to California to Michigan to DC. And I think the community is really adapting to this virtual environment and creating sangats and creating ways to do seva and support different causes, whether it be social justice causes, whether it be, humanitarian causes. So we really had to adapt, but I think the community is doing that right now.
Due to COVID-19, minority communities and communities of color have been disproportionately represented, and also they are having the most effect of this pandemic. Have you seen that in the Sikh American community?
The Sikh American community certainly has been affected, as in addition to other minority communities.
Right.
I think overall we are seeing the impact. We're trying to be safe, especially when we gather. We've given protocols to Gurdwara across the country about being safe when we gather. But certainly, yes, we have seen, unfortunately, COVID-19 hit our community as well.
Yes, definitely. Kiran, let's go ahead and talk about the National Sikh Survey. Lots of information to discuss here, and lots to discuss on why there was a need for that. So just starting that off, why did you think there was a need for this survey to be held now in 2020?
So Sikh Americans have been in this country since the early the start of the the 20th century, in the early 1900s. But there has not been any national data collected to this scale on Sikh Americans to date. So when we go on the Hill and we do advocacy work, when we talk about, for example, experiences of the community, whether that be hate crimes, whether that be workplace discrimination, whether it be economic issues, we don't have that data to back it up. So we have a lot of anecdotal evidence and what we sort of know from day-to-day experience. But having that data behind us is extremely powerful, right? Because then lawmakers can really look at the numbers and say, wow, this is issues that heavily impact our constituents. These are issues that we can see there's broad support for. So having that is extremely valuable, and that's what we wanted to do. And it's interesting, actually, that we ended up doing it this year during a pandemic. There were certain challenges to that. But what we saw was an overwhelming response from the community to share their views, share their opinions, and provide feedback to us, which will be so important moving forward.
And Kiran, in terms of the survey, how was the participation, and what age groups did you see the most participate in this?
It was actually pretty evenly split. So the survey was open to those 12 and up, and we saw, a mix of younger Sikh Americans to elderly Sikh Americans. So really, we actually got a really good sample size, and we also got good national participation, which is what we're looking for. It's not up on our website yet, but it should be within the next month. So we have the data broken down by region. We should, by the end of the year, have it also broken down by state. So that'll be really interesting for everyone to see as well.
Definitely. Kiran, I want to discuss more about the key findings in the survey, because a lot was discussed and demographics have been defined. In big survey, I really would like to tell audience to take a look at it if they can, and really see and learn about the Sikh American community. What did it say about discrimination in the survey that you did? It's been a huge problem with the Sikh American community for the last couple of years especially, but we have seen this since 9/11. What could you tell us about that?
So it's interesting what we're seeing, in terms of discrimination in the Sikh American community and where we're seeing it too. So it was really interesting to see the results, again, because it's a national survey, where higher incidence of, feeling unsafe in their environment in the American South or the Midwest versus on the coast, which, is something you may think of intuitively, but it's interesting. Obviously, Oak Creek happened in Wisconsin, so there is the actual incident that people refer to, but it is interesting to see the variations of how and where people feel safe given where they're located within the United States.
Yes, definitely. In this, SALDEF has also released the FBI report, which shows that issues of discrimination and hate crime are on the rise. What could you tell us about that and its relationship with the survey that you did?
So I think we see, especially for Sikh Americans that carry the outward identifiers of our faith, including the turban and other religious symbols, do experience more discrimination, certainly than what we see of the general population. But I think, interestingly enough, and maybe it's not a good thing, but we've even seen, unfortunately, hate crimes even in this COVID environment. And just think about that, right? An environment where we are supposed to, for health reasons, socially distance and be, and not interact with each other. We've seen hate crimes, we've seen vandalism, we've seen discrimination. So unfortunately, this issue is not going away for our community. The FBI statistics that came out in 2018, we saw, I think it was a 50% increase in hate crimes. We see hate crimes on the rise in the latest FBI statistics that came out. So unfortunately, this is an issue that we certainly are going to have to contend with, and it's something that we are going to be speaking to the incoming administration about as well.
Kiran, what kind of hate crimes are these? If you could share a few with us, if that's possible.
Sure. So what we've seen is in the last couple of months is vandalism. We've seen vandalism in in New Mexico, in Florida as well. So slogans like "Go home, go back to your country." There's some political, in some cases, some signs, unfortunately, like Trump 2020. Some people, associate maybe certain things with political campaigns. So we've seen, unfortunately, obviously, a lot of heated rhetoric within the last couple years, and I think that has impacted the community and what we're seeing in terms of vandalism and what we're seeing in terms of violence as well.
Yes, definitely. In this sense, your survey states from the people that were surveyed here, Kiran, 70% said they were bullied or harassed for their turban in the South. I'd like to know why you think that has happened, and do we need more cultural awareness in schools? Is that where the root of this cause is? How are you looking at that?
Absolutely, and in fact, that's one of our recommendations: more cultural awareness in schools. And why do I think it happens in the South? I think in certain places there may be less diversity, so people don't know and don't understand. And I think the South certainly has a certain history, and I think that lends itself potentially to to discrimination and othering of certain individuals, which is what we're seeing here. But absolutely, education in schools is one way that we can combat this.
So according to your survey, were there particular regions, Kiran, I just want to clarify this, where you saw more discrimination or hate towards the Sikh American community versus some other states where they were more thriving as a community?
Absolutely. There was a number of different questions along those lines, but I think where Sikh Americans felt more safe were states that were more diverse. So, for example, New Jersey certainly is a state that's much more diverse. We have an attorney general itself that's Sikh, so that would be an example. Whereas states where we, the population is less, we had a question about how many Sikhs do you interact with on a day-to-day basis, maybe in a work environment, for example. So where you see, less of a population is where it seems like there's a greater misunderstanding and more discrimination.
Another statistic that you have shared here is 93% of Sikh American citizens registered to vote this year, and of that, 96% actually voted. I would like to know what kind of political issues matter to the community the most, and how were you able to see that there were 93% Sikh American citizens who were able to register?
So the 93% number came from the respondents of the survey themselves, right? So what they're saying, they're self-reporting that that they're registered to vote and they are voting. And issues of religious freedom, of social justice, of gender equity, fell in with the top couple issues that Sikh Americans care about. So I was really, very pleasantly surprised to see a number of issues that relate to the Sikh American community, but also go beyond the Sikh American community in terms of issues that the community supports. I know, for example, environmental issues were also in the top 10. So we see that Sikh Americans care about issues that directly impact our community, but also care about issues that affect the larger community, specifically issues that are related to equality, which is so central to the tenets of Sikhism.
Yes, of course, and equality is what we're all asking for as well in this. When you're looking at the Sikh American population, again, talking more about the issues that they care about, what concerns them the most, Kiran, living in this country?
I think probably, again, when we're hearing back from the community, issues of civil rights, I would say, and religious freedom came up within the top two issues. So those are, again, one of SALDEF's core tenets is we're a civil rights organization. So and we talked previously about the FBI hate crime statistics, for example. So those continue to be issues that the community deals with, and the community, would like to advocate for and address.
Yes. the way these elections went, Kiran, and the way the new incoming administration is looking like, do you believe or do you think the Sikh American voice was heard and represented, that issues that you all cared about were the issues that most people cared about in this election?
I do think there was a lot of talk about issues that the Sikh American community cares about. So especially about from, without getting too political, certainly from the incoming president, civil rights. He did have his platform included, hate crimes and policies to address hate crimes. His platform included immigration, issues on social justice, civil rights, gender equity. So a lot of the topics that came up on our survey that the community cares about were issues that were addressed in the platform. So we were pleasantly surprised to see, the incoming president's team address those issues. And as I mentioned, we're currently in talks with the transition team. So we are continuing to advocate for the community, as we move forward into the new year.
According to you, what should the new administration focus on, especially when you're looking at civil rights issues?
I think that, the incoming administration should focus on stronger hate crime legislation. And also, last year, for example, we worked with DHS to look at safety and security for houses of worship. So those are two issues that I think are really key to Sikh Americans. Some of the hate crimes that we have experienced as a community, unfortunately, have been at houses of worship, from Oak Creek to there was incidents last year in California. So I think those are two big issues that the community is concerned about. And, obviously the ability to practice our religion freely in this country, which is, part of what, America stands for. We want to make sure that we are indeed able to practice Sikhism.
What about Sikh awareness in law enforcement? I know that has also been something that SALDEF has, put attention on. And when we're talking about civil rights, again, it's all, the talk hugely is about law enforcement and police. How are you looking at it, and are you all focused on raising more awareness in the law enforcement?
So yes, SALDEF has been active for a number of years with the law enforcement and raising awareness of Sikhism in law enforcement, as well as advocating for uniform accommodation policies. So in a number of different departments, the uniform codes do not allow, for example, Sikhs to wear turbans, which is a barrier to entry, just like we saw previously with the Army, Navy, Air Force. I know some barriers have been broken down there, but we still have a ways to go in terms of being able to serve with our articles of faith. So that is another area that the community is concerned with and that we will continue to advocate for.
Yes, I think that has been a huge issue. Wouldn't you say that?
For sure, definitely.
Yes. At this point, I would like to talk to you about your focus on empowering the youth, because I know that's another huge aspect of SALDEF in catering to the South Asian American voices, to the Sikh American voices. What is happening on the youth end for you, especially this year? And give us a little insight into Sikh Lead. I believe the applications are open.
Yes, they are open. We're so excited. The applications are open. The due date is January 17th, 2021. So we are running the program again this year. We'll see what happens with COVID, but our program is absolutely on. Again, this is a program that empowers Sikh youth. It is an opportunity to intern in legislative offices. For the DC program, that would be on the Hill. For the regional programs, that would be in state and local offices, and get a firsthand look at how government functions and the ability to understand how advocacy works. So it's an incredible opportunity, open to Sikh Americans. The DC program is open to Sikh Americans 18 and over. So we take college students, undergrad and above. The regional programs, we do take high school students as well. So the age limit is 15 and above. So it's a great opportunity to get an internship while you're in high school to expand your network. And obviously the regional program is open to college students as well, some incredible opportunities to intern locally. The other interesting thing, we started the regional program in New Jersey in 2015. Last year, we expanded the regional program to New Mexico, and I'm so excited this year we're actually expanding it, well beyond that. Our program is going to be in California, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, Michigan, New Jersey, of course, New York, and Colorado. So, I mean, it's really, again, I started off, I think, talking about, Sikhism and this idea of seva, service to humanity. One of the ways we can do that certainly is through public service, through helping our communities on the ground. And this is going to build a nationwide network to do that. I'm so excited about it.
Is there a lack of political participation, Kiran, in terms of different levels of government? Are there enough Sikh Americans in these different levels?
We're working on getting more Sikh Americans engaged. And it was great this year. We had one of our alumni of our program, of our Sikh Lead program in California. His name is Mikey Hoti. He actually won a seat for Lodi City Council. So it's incredible to see his journey from going through the program, understanding, how government works, understanding how advocacy works, all the way to deciding to run for office, and then, of course, winning in this past election season. So, we're trying to build that pipeline and that network of Sikh youth that really not only get involved with state and local politics, but also choose to run for office as well.
No, definitely. I just have a couple of questions left here, Kiran.
Sure.
What is your focus for the next few months with SALDEF? What are the new programs that are coming in?
So we're obviously very vested in this Sikh Lead program. We also have a leadership development program that will be starting in the spring. So that's an opportunity to. It's going to be a virtual program where students will be able to get leadership skills. We have a whole advocacy training, and they will do community service projects in their local region based on their interest. So that's something that's opening up. But really within this time from, now till the end of the year, we're working on, building out our policies and meeting with the transition team to really get in front of the incoming administration to make sure that we're well positioned for advocacy in 2021.
How do you want the community to help SALDEF, Kiran? How can we participate? Anybody?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a number of different opportunities to volunteer on the program. So, as we, for example, expand the Sikh Lead program nationwide, there's regional opportunities to assist, to mentor youth. With the policies, depending on your background, we have a number of, volunteers that are assisting in different areas. We just had kicked off an awesome our program Sikh Vote, where we had volunteers from across the country help us mobilize the Sikh community, which, as we see from the survey, is already quite active. So there's a number of different volunteer opportunities. So I would just encourage folks to contact us. They can reach me at Kiran at SALDEF.org. And I also wanted to give the website for Sikh Lead, which I should have done earlier. It's www.saldef.org, SALDEF.org/SikhLead, SIKHLEAD. So, again, really excited about the program.
And will you continue to collaborate with other organizations and individuals? I know there was a huge series SALDEF did this year on civil rights movement, really supporting, the movement of Black Lives Matter and the African American community. What can we look forward to in the next coming months?
Yeah, so we are still developing our platform beyond, the issues that we typically think of, as part of our platform: hate crime, immigration. Two issues that I personally would like to tackle this year are environmental justice issues and issues of gender equity, which, as I mentioned, was definitely within the top 5 concerns of the community. So really looking at those issues, I think will be, the next in our next phase. And yeah, so stay tuned.
Yes.
I'll be back on to discuss that as well.
Of course you will be. We love having you here. Kiran, this was such an awesome interview. Thank you again so much for your time. I would love for you to give one last message to our audience.
My message to the audience is, really around advocacy. I think, that's part of SALDEF's mission, and we do that as an organization, but there's so many things that you can do within your own state and local municipalities. So, get active. There is 2021 is going to be a new start. So let's sit tight and let's see what the future holds.
Yes, of course. Here's to hoping the best for the future. Thank you so much again for your time, Kiran.
Thank you, Aditi.